Hello there everyone, my name is Garrett and I am making a toy review. Now that the holidays are over and I have countless new presents that would doubtless make good reviews just because they're hot topics right now, I would like to take some time to look at an older figure that probably everybody already has and nobody cares about a review of. That's right, today we'll be looking at the War for Cybertron trilogy Starscream. All of them. Okay, maybe not all of them, but the main ones appearing in each line. First up is Siege Starscream, possibly the most repainted figure ever, with like 11 basic palette swaps. And really only 10 because one is just a basic Starscream redeco, but higher price. None of that really matters though, because it's all supplementary material when you already have this guy. And he is for sure a strange Starscream. I have to explain my main problem with him right off the bat so it doesn't sound like I'm just dragging him through the mud the whole review, but the transformation on this guy sucks. It's a large point of contention for me with this figure because you just crumple him up and you just cover him in a tortilla of his backpack. You can fully transform the jet and have it hang off his back like a weird protoform with a turtle shell, and that definitely is not good. Despite the dubious transformation to get there, the Tetrajet mode is great. It clearly is the whole selling point of the figure. Oh look, it's classic G1 Starscream, you recognize him. But he's different. The Cybertronian Tetrajet is all Siege Starscream has to offer when compared to his other War for Cybertron brethren. It really is unique, and I like it a lot. It really is just a shame that the robot mode is hardly integrated into the alt mode, and the alt mode just feels like an afterthought.
What's wrong? Snake!
I like Hasbro's idea of a grungy, war-torn Cybertron with paint decos to reflect that. Some of the figures even look good with it. The grime on Megatron doesn't bother me because it makes sense and looks decent. But here on Starscream it just looks unfinished. His shoulders, thighs, crotch, and all of his side view have none of the paint application.
Bruh.
I think it would look a lot better if the paint was evenly applied and had more of a dry brushed and realistic look to it instead of random scrapes and splotches all over the figure. And then the premium finish just did everything I just suggested to improve the paint, and it still doesn't look good. If you can ignore all of these negatives, like ignoring that KISS players exist, then it really is a great Starscream figure. The look is on point and the posability is amazing. I love these high and angular shoulder spikes. I love the whack 60% leg ratio. He looks like he's built like a frickin' JoJo character. Arms that can practically fold and flush thanks to his double jointed elbows. Butterfly joints at the shoulders. Wings that can go upside down if you feel like it. And legs that actually bend so far in on themselves he can sit in a fetal position. An old Screamer here has good reason to want to sit in a fetal position because his null rays refuse to stay on. It's not even a problem with the guns themselves because they fit tightly into any of the other ports in the Cybertronian Omnifunctional Modular Battlefield Assault Tech system ports. It's just his shoulder ports are really loose. I know I've listed all of his negatives so far and hardly any positives, but I would ultimately recommend getting him. Although he is utterly and hopelessly a shell former, he is the most unique Starscream released in the past 10 years, largely due in part to his very unique alt mode. I've had him for a year now, I've had him for 2 years now.
Bruh.
I've had him for 2 years now, and his joints are still tight and smooth. His proportions are amusing, and he's pretty fun to handle. I admire him for the risks he took, but really only half of them ended up working and the rest actively bogged down the figure. Essentially, 10 out of 10. He has light piping. Now, Earthrise Starscream is more my style. His proportions are a lot chunkier when compared to the Siege figure, but it's all worth it for the much better alt mode. Where the Siege one felt like a great robot mode with a tacked on alt mode, This one feels like a healthy balance between the robot and the jet. Now, not everything is perfect with the Earthrise Screamer, but I feel much more inclined to be forgiving because it's more of what I wanted, and the colors work so much better now that he's taken a bath. With all the grime off, the blues are a shade more vibrant and the reds are now glossy and beautiful. I really like the more gunmetal gray color for his face, though his expression seems a bit odd to me. His eyes are a bit more narrowed and angrier looking than I think they should be. The posability is clearly a step down from the Siege Starscream. There's no wrist joint, there's no waist swivel, the wings have much less movement, and his knees can bend nowhere near as far. While ultimately, I think these are all good sacrifices for actually transforming instead of curling up into a ball. He could pose just enough for some great action poses and to be expressive. The main thing that elevates him over the Siege version is his transformation and the end result. The transformation is just great. From what I've seen, it's very similar to the older classic Starscream, just upscaled into a Voyager and slightly improved. I don't know, your opinion could differ on that, leave it in the comments. I personally don't care, you can reuse engineering. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. One thing that bugs me though is that the wings very easily pop off, and I've never been able to transform it without that happening. I know this varies from copy to copy though, because my Thundercracker and Skywarp have never had that problem. The alt mode is really great. Apparently he turns into a McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagle. I wouldn't know, I don't know planes. All I know is that it holds together really well and it looks great. He's even got a port for a flight stand in the bottom of his crotch plate, but it's basically useless because it's 3mm deep and none of my stands can fit in it. Any stand with a clamp works just as well and problem solved. Overall, Earthrise Starscream just feels a lot better to me. I like the Siege figure for the risks it took with its strange proportions and distinct alt mode, but in the end, crowd-pleasing, nostalgia-bait G1 conquers all. He looks the best with the other figures and feels the best on his own. All hail the king. No, not that king. First is the worst. First is the worst. Second is the best. Third is the one with the turbine chest. Small enough to digest? I don't know, rhyming is hard. Kingdom Starscream is not the best, but everything's forgivable given he's only $10. He's got the same problem with the null rays that Siege Starscream has, and on top of that, he's got new super loose hip joints. But I'm not mad at it at all, because ultimately the most I wanted out of this was a small Starscream to go on my favorites shelf, and that's all he is. The paint and details are all very excellent for the scale. The eyes and the face are all very cleanly painted. The Decepticon symbols in the back look so good with the shiny metallic purple paint. The transformation is really simple, but also very different than any other Starscream I've seen. The Earthrise follows the pattern of the G1 figure with the cockpit folding out of the chest and the arms filling in the space, but the Kingdom one has some crazy steps, like you pull his chest open like you're digging for a matrix, and then there's a turntable and his head's on a stick and like, what? The jet mode is alright. It's definitely the worst part of the figure. I don't hate it like I thought I would from looking at the stock pictures, but I'm not in love with it either. The nose of the jet seems just a little too short, and the undercarriage is a lot. I wasn't expecting a lot out of him, so no disappointment. Posability is decent. I mean, but to me, that's not what this figure is about. If I wanted a good quality Starscream that's posable, all I'd want is the Earthrise one, and I'd throw away the Siege. Heck, maybe not even that. Maybe I just get a masterpiece. But that's not what I want from a Starscream toy. All I want is enough posability to pull off the standard smug "I'm better than you" pose, and that's it. Crazily enough, making this video made me realize that Kingdom Starscream is possibly my favorite out of these three. I feel it captures the essence of the character the most. Starscream is the Transformer I have the most of, and it's not because I think the character design is really cool or because he's always got great figures or something. It's just because he's always been the same fun, backstabbing character. My speech right now is perfectly syncing up with him actually being backstabbing. I mean, by chance, my speech about how great of a backstabbing character is lines up with an example of him being backstabbing. His personality of being the ambitious and scheming underling while also being completely incompetent is so well known that he's recognized as a TV trope. As perfectly summarized by Megatron,
Your knowledge is only overshadowed by your stupidity.
And what else is there to say? Starscream is consistently good comedy. I'm sorry you knew I had to say that at some point. Now, to never review another Starscream again. Boom, boom, acca-lacca-lacca, boom, 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 acca-lacca, boom, 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 boom. No. Thank you everyone for watching. I had a fun time making this. I'm planning other subjects for videos in the future, but if you've made it this far and you like what you've seen, then a like and a subscribe would be awesome. It helped me out a lot. Other than that, I'm out.
You are either lying or you're stupid.